We're going to use this time to sync up on work that goes on around our organization, eliminate blockers, and prioritize our work. And we are helping purpose-driven communities use Web3 tooling to generate revenue and engagement. You can see our, oh, thanks, Winverse. Yeah, I'm not showing my screen. Let me share my screen now. There we go. All right. So we do have some lag metrics here. Working on updating these metrics in general. We don't have everything that we need where we need it yet, but we're working on it as we go. So our transaction volume is 2,172 plus 1150. Not really sure where that's coming from, but I haven't really been looking too deep into those metrics lately. We have 52,019 USDC in the vault. This is the number that's easy for me to get because it's on the local, it's on my local host, but I should also include the WETH in there eventually. I haven't done it yet. 270 dispersed to communities. And so that is something I just did yesterday. I dispersed a bunch of funds to people who held in real life events in October. And so this is kind of what's our lag metrics are. On the lead metric side, we have, honestly, I guess the lead metric side is really this, what amount of money involved in this dispersed to communities is kind of lag metrics. But anyways, we shall see as we go. In terms of weekly transacting users, I actually haven't been able to get this number, or rather to get this number, I have to go into the database and get it, and I haven't really done that. But it's something that maybe we will put into our admin panel eventually. We have 1 new users and 11 communities deployed. In general, I think these lead metrics are kind of, I think we probably need to update all of these, but we'll work on it as we go. On the team-wide announcement side, no meetings on December 24th or December 31st. In fact, no meetings in general, including the product weekly and the ops weekly. I will be under probably just spending most of my time with my family, and I hope that you guys are doing the same, hanging out and doing that kind of thing. I will probably do some work in those times, so if you see me popping up in Discord, yeah, that's what I'll be doing. But in general, no meetings for those weeks. And a retrospective on December 17th. So retrospective? No, not quite. Retrospective on December 17th. So that's not next week, but the week after. And I will try to create the meeting notes for that a little bit earlier so that we can kind of put stuff down. But just end of the year is a good time to just take some time to reflect and see where we're at, what we did well, what we can improve, and where we want to be too. And I think that that's really something that could set us up for 2026. Don't forget to use what did you ship when you do something for B Foundation. Notice lots of people using it, which is great. And we have some standard bounties here in case you don't know what to do. But yeah, going down into our project perspective. So now we're looking at this in terms of projects. The nice thing about looking at it in terms of projects instead of milestones is that we could just add someone who wants to join our group as a kind of an accountability group. So if someone comes in, wants to tell us about their project, we can just add a little section here. And the place where I put milestones now is we're going to do it, I guess, much more tactically. So for B pages, our milestone is to get to our first launch. And so on the community page side, I did fix some timing errors. I started to refactor the logic of some of the intermittent async exceptions. So Tom, you know those intermittent exceptions that I was kind of like talking to you about before you went on vacation? I figured out the issue, which is essentially that the async exceptions are being fired after the try-catch blocks have run.
Okay. That makes some sense.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just going to refactor some of this. I'm going to pull out the approve. I'm going to pull out the deposit. I'm going to pull and I'm going to put them into their own kind of little sections. And then I'll tighten up the error handling in each one of those as we go. And that's hopefully
in the end, it's always async.
Yeah, I mean, when you're with JavaScript, the issues are async. Yeah. Yeah, so there was some timing issues that I introduced as I added some stuff, or I assume I introduced them because I was changing some stuff. But I did fix those timing issues. One thing I want to do is harmonize the button colors. So if you look at this, I mean, we were looking at it last week, but I don't think Tom was here. So you can kind of see here's a community vault section. You have your total vault deposits. And then you can deposit. You can see. So here is a exception that I need to fix. And actually, when you look at this, it probably did do the deposit. Now, did it do the deposit? Maybe not. Boom. So I'm not sure. I think it has to do with the approvals. Oh, now every time I'm doing it. Anyways, cumulative gas used. Maybe I don't have enough gas. Either way, all of that stuff should, well, I think I have enough gas. All that stuff should show up on here instead. So you can see. Anyways, well, that's a new exception for me. All right. Anyways, well, yeah, I am intellectually interested into this, but it looks like maybe I transaction execution report. Anyways, all this to say, I still need to do some work on this, and I'll try to carve out some time to handle those exceptions as I can. Yeah, and at least show them in a nice way that the user can actually handle something here. So like a nice thing that says like, hey, you don't have enough gas, or hey, something else, right? That kind of thing. But we shall see. All right. I also, yeah, so I want to harmonize the button colors. That's what I really want to show you, but then I couldn't really do it. In general, I have these kinds of buttons. I have these kinds of buttons. And then I have, if you look at the votes, I have different kinds of buttons there as well. So I just kind of wanted to harmonize some of those so that they're all the same. And the way I can do that is by using the button widget. And I figured out how to make it themable. So just basically editing the button widget to make it themable and then using that button everywhere. So we shall see. Any questions on B pages? All right, the BCard app, we're in maintenance mode. Phil fixed a voting bug. I need to take a look at it today and then push it to prod. Yeah, I will take a look at it. But apparently he added, we talked about it, and I think he added a modal, which basically, if you have no voting power, says, hey, you have no voting power before they do it. Any updates to the backend and admin dashboard? Not to put you on the spot, Tom. I know you just came back from vacation, so.
Yeah, no worries. I'm happy to be on the spot. I haven't looked at it this week, but hopefully, or the past week, but hopefully this coming week I'll be looking at it.
Sweet, sounds good. All right, and on the B Foundation side, establish a case study and presence. Well, on the Black Flag Collective, I did disperse the funds for October 2025. I want to update the tally for November 2025 because it has some cruft from some of the older requirements. Now the only requirements is that you post it on the Black Flag channel in Farcaster. And so that's the kind of hope there. And then I'll update that form, and then I'll get the hosts, I'll poke all the hosts to submit their events for November. And then I also created events for Toronto for the next 2 months. So that's 3 events in the next 2 months. So yeah, if you guys want to create an event, that would be cool as well. And then we're working on our own community. Actually, one thing I should mention is last month, October, we had the most events we've ever had, which is 8 events and 6 event hosts. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, and working on our own community, blog posts on our system, and updating our community metrics. Well, I don't think we've had any progress on these, so I guess we can move forward. But I don't know, may as well ask you, Richard, any progress on this stuff?
Find the mic thing. So the only thing I did is I did read some of the split stuff. So I guess that's like inspiration for the blog post, but that was about it.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. Pop into Asana for our task perspective. All right. So automated monthly statement emails. And so I know, Tom, before you went on vacation, this was something that you said that you were planning on taking a look at some point. So I'll just leave it there for now. Yeah. Does that make sense, or do you want me to assign it to you?
Oh yeah, you can assign it to me. That's good.
Stick it in this week then. All right. Community pages milestone 1. And so I'm still working on the deposit and withdraw widget. And I will check out this bug. But those are the last 2 things. Still quite a bit of work, I would say, to do on it. Hopefully I can finish it this week. I think once I just get into it and get a couple of hours of carved out time, which I have not had in the last little while, I will be able to just complete it. So that's a hope. We shall see. Admin dashboard refactor. Yeah, so last thing we were looking at, pulling in additional data. I requested spending users per week, so the amount of people who are spending. And then looking at using cron for automated emails. So those are both here. Makes sense, Tom, still?
Yep, that's right.
All right. Automated monthly statement emails, I guess like this kind of is now 2 tasks, automated monthly statement and admin dashboard refactor. One thing I will mention is that it does look like we are getting more and more inactivity fees. So it's probably going to be good for us to let the user be aware of that. And in fact, maybe we should just, I'm wondering if there's a good way to put it into the monthly emails.
Yeah, I guess they're two parallel sort of work queues, right? In terms of monthly statements are automated and the inactivity fee notifications are also automated, right?
Yeah, so I think like there's automated inactivity emails, but then like, you know, the monthly emails that you send out, Tom, like the monthly statement emails?
Yep.
It would be cool if during the generation of those, we could see if the user had and paid an inactivity fee. And then, I mean, we're already telling them, but like I guess I just want it to be like in red at the top of their monthly statement email.
Yeah, maybe I can do something like at the tail of that processing, maybe send a support list of admin numbers to support at or something like that that would indicate any activity fees that we expect or that we saw.
Yeah, maybe it's just something we need to talk through, because I think that there is a bunch of things that like on one case we want to automate it, and then the other case it's just like adding it into the monthly statement, and then the third case is like having an automated email just for this. So it's like 3 kind of features. So here's automated monthly statement emails, inactivity fee features. This actually has 2 things. Let's say add inactivity fee call out at the top of the monthly statement. Okay. All right. Okay. I feel at least it's written down now, but yeah, we'll see how we can handle this. Okay. Next up, snapshot poll didn't work for a user. This is now to review, so I'll stick it up here, and I will assign it to myself. Yep, and I'm actually going to remove all of these from our all team projects since we're not actively looking at these anymore. Okay, great. Blocked waiting needs feedback. And users can't see the full source of funds. I will leave this right now. Black Flag Endowment Fund. I need to update the thing for this, but not really working on it quite yet. In fact, I'll just stick it here for now. 2025 taxes. How's this going, Richard?
I haven't done anything on it yet, but I have been thinking about it.
Great. And then using tokens to increase contribution. Well, we already talked about this. Okay, great. So gone through the task perspective. Anything else that we're working on that's not on this list? Okay. What did we ship last week? So RKC entered the contributor rewards for week 48 in the splits. I've got a couple of, I'm a couple of weeks behind on this. And NF Thinker, you're also able to do this if you want. You're one of the people on splits who can actually review what people did and send out. So if you feel like you want to do it, feel free. It's kind of like whichever one of us gets to it first. It requires 2 signatures, one from of
Richard,
2 of 3 of
and
us.
one from either of us. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. I might meet up with Richard and we can go through exactly how to do that because I haven't actually done it before. So maybe you could give me a walkthrough to see.
Yep. I could also give you a walkthrough too, as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can even do it at the end of this meet so everyone kind of sees it, and then we also have it documented in our weekly meeting.
Yeah, I can probably. I'm on my phone, not my desktop, so I might not be able to see it as well. But yeah, I can go through that.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll do it later then when you actually can see it. But yeah. Okay, great. So that is 250 B card. I just dispersed in real life rewards for October. I pulled the yield for November. I shared on socials. I set up a meet with Brenner. That took 60 minutes altogether, and that's 1,000 B card. I aim to fix some of the race conditions in the deposit. So that's 60 minutes. That was 1K B card. Drost prepped and shared November 26 all hands on transcript. That's 2K B card. Yeah, and so I also prepped and did the all hands, which I didn't write down, but I'll do that. Prepped and held Nov 26 all hands, 2K B card. I prepped and chatted with Burner, which we'll talk about during the discussion. This is 2K B card. And then Phil added a message over active proposals when you have no voting power. So that's 2K B card. Oh, not at K, 2K. There we go. Anything else that we did that's not on this list? No? Okay. So I did get a chance to speak with Burner, and it was Cameron Robertson, the CEO. And basically, I would say that they are kind of like full bore into getting this out to production. In general, they are trying to use as off-the-shelf solutions as they can to reduce their manufacturing burden, which is a lot. I've been through a manufacturing process before, and so they're full bore on that, hoping to get something out by the beginning of next year, so that they can basically test it, see if it works, and get it out more wide. In case you haven't seen Terminal, this is what it looks like. Crypto at checkout. And the idea is you can accept crypto payments via Burner. You can accept crypto payments via like any kind of QR enabled wallet. So, the bigs have this: Coinbase Wallet, MetaMask, Rainbow, Family. I think most of the big wallets have that QR ability. And you can also accept payments using Visa, MasterCard, and Discover, anything on the EMV system. And so that's what this little product is. And basically, a lot of us were kind of inspired by it. And so the way that I put it to them, I asked them a ton of questions, which I actually think that we should go through one by one. But in general, we've been running into scale issues with TradFi. Basically, we need scale to provide value, but we need to provide value to create scale. And that's why it's difficult for us to use the TradFi system to actually support smaller communities and purpose-driven communities. And we really want to create tools for organizations as small as one person, right? Like that is what the community pages is kind of about, is being able to release something that you can use as one person even. And so the way we've been thinking about it is that we need to help build a parallel network that can connect to TradFi as needed. And with Terminal, we see a path to build some of these parallel networks. So the way that I'm looking at it is that we are creating these like kind of smaller networks which function in isolation, but you attach them together eventually, and then they create this kind of like global network which rivals TradFi. So we'll see. We don't know exactly how this is going to happen, but we're super excited. And so the questions I asked them, what kind of software they have. And so in general, I would say like what they're trying to do with the software is make it as like basically do as little software as possible. So they are not doing any kind of storefront. So they're not like most of the traditional point of sale systems. They have a way to add a SKU. They have a way to add like all of these things. Nope, they're not doing that right now. It's really just like, hey, type in the number that you want to charge and then allow the person to tap or pay for it. Plus like a little web experience to like see how much funds you have. and they're working on that, like using Privy or something like that. It's going to be non-custodial, so they won't have access to the funds. But the idea is that you can use them to off-ramp those funds if you want. So that's kind of like the basis of their technology is really as tight as possible. Accept payments. The payments go into a wallet you control, probably via Privy. So that they're looking at other solutions, but Privy is one that you can control via email, and then you can off-ramp funds, and they will charge a little bit on the off-ramp. So that's kind of like the scope of the technology, and you won't have to do KYC or anything like that, or KYB, unless you're using EMV payments. So that's card payments. So if you're just using pure crypto payments, you won't have to do a KYC or KYB. I often ask them how off ramping will work. They'll basically have their own off ramp that you can use for a fee, and they're using Bridge. And if you want to use their off ramp, you'll have to do a KYB via Bridge, or you can use your own off ramp if you already have one. So you could send your money to your own off ramp. And then I asked, hey, can you set it up so that money just goes to your own multi-sig like splits? And they said, oh, that's really interesting. I've never seen splits teams before, but yeah, being able to set it up so it just sends to any Ethereum address is relatively easy for us to do. So that's kind of like what it would look like. And the transaction fees, they're aiming to be 1% or less, fully off-ramped. And so what that means is that instead of paying 3% for Visa MasterCard, if you get crypto fees, you'll only be paying 1%. So it's 3 times cheaper. They don't know exactly what those fees are going to be yet, but that would be for the full off-ramping. If you are only accepting crypto, it would be significantly less than that, is what they believe. They want to approach zero for pure stablecoin transactions. Custom tokens, they thought about this, and it's not going to be a public feature. It'll be a case-by-case basis. There's no technical reason why they can't support it. It's more of a compliance issue. And so he actually brought up to himself local community coins or local business coins. This could be interesting. And for the margins for resellers, there's not a lot of margin on the hardware. So that is the cards and the terminal itself. The margin's not bad actually on the card. So it gets as cheap as $5 a card, and they sell retail for $9. So you're still paying $5 a card if you're like setting up a little wallet here, but a $5 wallet actually isn't terrible. And then if you do, they have small order quantities, so 100 pieces with a custom logo for $7. With 100 pieces, and then the cheapest they get is 1,000 pieces with a fully custom design and a $5 price point. So between 100 and 1,000, basically you're paying between $5 and $7 per each of those cards. So that could be useful as we're talking about, as those custom cards we saw are kind of interesting. Which geographies? Likely, they'll definitely have USA working and likely having it working in Canada at launch. And so this includes EMV payments, and then should get into Europe soon after. So that's kind of the skinny. But yeah, did that any questions arise from those questions and answers?
Sounds really cool. It's interesting to see the comparison in costs between sort of setting up the card versus the burner card.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like it almost rivals the card that that Transcard offers. I mean, it's cheaper, the card that Transcard offers, but the burner card is more functional, although maybe less functional for most people. So same order of magnitude, at least in terms of costs, but these burner cards don't include shipping.
Yeah, that they're able to even get it in the same ballpark, I think, is pretty amazing to me, considering sort of the scope and scale of like Transcard and the legacy institutions or whatever that they're built upon.
Yeah, so it's important to note as well that in a lot of ways, Burner is vertically integrated. It's their own chips that are going into the cards, and these chips are used at by like Ethereum Foundation at ETH Global, and they've used them for some other cases as well. But their first their first product was a chip, and so they're using their own chips, which means that they're getting them at their own price point. So they're getting them at cost, and then they're selling them in the burner. Probably making a little bit of money on each burner. But yeah,
That's amazing that that's where they started with, was the chip. I think that's super cool.
Yeah, I think it's really cool too. And it's also to be noted that Transcard, because they're locked into this TradFi, when they're figuring out how to get their cards printed and sold, they're working with a printer. They're working with like a chip manufacturer to actually get those chips, and everyone is getting their own. Like everyone's taking a cut as they go, right? And so it is an entrenched system in which everyone is already kind of like making some money. So it inherently makes some things more expensive as a result. But their thing is scale, right? So traditional system has scale. Anyways, yeah, it's definitely interesting. Another thing I asked the CEO, like why he's doing this, and this is something Phil would be interested in, but I'm sure you guys would find this interesting too. He just thinks that digital cash is one of the most important things, and so all of their products are geared towards kind of these what he called discardable entities or discardable what do you call them? Discardable tools, discardable. I forget what the exact word is, but he used discardable. Whereas he said, there are other people who are going the exact opposite direction, where you get to spend money based upon your identity, based upon your fingerprint, based upon your eye scan, that kind of thing. And he's like, no, we want to create a system where you can use money based upon these discardable items. And that is cash, right? Whereas something tied to your identity is not really cash in my perspective. So something like anonymous money, in some cases that you can use on these cards, I actually think that is really interesting, because that is it's definitely something that not a lot of people in crypto are working on. And so I actually think it's really cool that they're looking at this, and it's something that was specifically interesting to Phil because, as you know, when he came in, he was kind of looking at homeless people are getting less money because people don't carry cash anymore. How could we potentially solve this problem? So yeah, I think that's really interesting that that's what their goal is. Any thoughts on anonymous cash or digital cash?
I guess that was even back to the early Bitcoin days. One of the original holy grails of the digital dollar, right, was the digital dollarization of the economy. Was that you could have and use and freely transact as cash in a digital space. So I think that that is a valuable ethos that probably needs preservation as we transition to a more digital world.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of having a non KYC card option and and a fiat option integrated in with it. I mean, it sounds to me like they're fully non-custody right now, fully non-custodial, or do they have actually custody accounts as well?
Their burner cards are non-custodial. Like you have to use their if you yeah, so if you no, it's so essentially the card itself is a wallet, right? Like the chip makes it a wallet. It's using these secure chips. And the way that you actually use it is there is a QR code and the chip itself within the card.
Yeah.
And if you tap it on, for instance, I wonder if I can show it on here. Let me turn on my camera. Okay, so here it is here. Oop, and you just tap it on your phone, and it comes up with this, and you tap it. Oop, I gotta do this, and it loads up like a burner website. and this is how you use your funds. So you can see I have like $10 on here, and this is how I like send and receive things.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's non-custodial, but like the way that you use it is like you're using like a website, which is their website, right? And so you could, I assume, ostensibly, and I haven't tried this, but I think you probably could export the keys, and it would be completely non-custodial in that case, right? But the other way to use this outside of like their web admin is terminal. Like that's kind of the missing piece for this. Otherwise, you can't really use this very easily.
Right. Well, yeah. Overall, I mean, it's a great idea. I still think that seeing how we can collaborate with them would be ideal. I don't know if that's still something that we want to work on. But
Definitely
yeah, I'm
is.
glad. What's that?
I mean, it definitely is. That's what I put to you. And so I have a couple of ideas here that I talked through with him. But it's up to us how we want to make this work. Like we have the
Yeah.
prices and everything like that. We have the capabilities, but I have a couple use cases here just to get your minds flowing, and we can talk about other use cases as well. But here's one: a loyalty program. So the idea is, and as well, like the way that I'm looking at these use cases is that they have to essentially create like a smaller local network that is able to function on its own. Why? Because well, first of all, terminal is a physical product, and so are the burners. And so you can, if you aren't doing it in this kind of like physical situation, then you may as well just use like what we're doing on community pages, right? And so it's not really like that's not really leaning into the benefits. And as you know, like our aim is to bridge the gap between Web3 and the real world. So that is really good for us. So creating these kind of like smaller networks. And the second reason is because if you want people to be able to use these things without having to understand crypto, you probably want them to be able to use it without having to you really have to think about the on-ramp and off-ramp problem, right? So like how do you actually on-ramp funds in a way that makes sense? So here is one potential use case. So a loyalty program. So businesses buy those branded burners, so for $5 a pop, and you sell these burners to your clients to join a loyalty program. Let's say I have a local business. I have, let's say, 100 of these burners, these custom burners, and they are $7 a pop. I sell them for, let's say, $9 a pop, right? So I'm making a small amount, or maybe I sell them for $7, and I just I break even on the cards. And then anytime a user buys anything, they get a custom token, and those tokens can be redeemed for merchandise later. So it ends up being a loyalty program, potentially with real crypto. Now, there's a bunch of issues with this, like, well, why even use crypto at all? You can just use, a traditional loyalty program. It might be cheaper. Users don't have to have cards and anything like that. Really just an idea more than anything. Like, what is the benefit here? Well, that's something to think about. So they have thought about this in the USA. It is a work in progress, not ready for launch. They call this a closed loop gift card. Whatever token is issued will have to have stringent transfer requirements. And then you can pay trad rails or cash for discount and get a card that you can use for the business. So why would the user might want to do this? In Asia specifically, and in China, they actually have discounts tied to pre-buying a lot of things. So hey, I go to the coffee shop all the time. If you buy 10 coffees in advance, you can get the 11th free, rather than in North America where you buy the 10 cards and you buy the 10 coffees and you keep a card. You do it the opposite. You buy the 10 coffees in advance and you get like credit for 11 coffees. And so in this case, a user might on-ramp funds in that way to say like, hey, yeah, I'll pre-buy 10 coffees and get the 11th for free. And then you're just using Burner to keep track of it. But yes. So any questions or comments on that use case? We can feel free to pick it apart if you like.
I always thought loyalty was one of the like Trojan horses for crypto, right? In the sense that like people collect points and airline reward miles, which are effectively non-crypto tokens, and that the loyalty collection and redemption, if it was able to be moved on chain, if it was able to sort of be intermediated through permissionless rails, then that would be a new dimension of loyalty that could add to the gamification aspects, right? Loyalty, in a sense, is the gamification of the use of a particular product or service in my mind.
So I completely agree with you. And I think the thing that's missing specifically from this is something to be engaging to the users. Okay, so you're giving them a card, but you don't have a way to re-engage them, right? Like you don't have a way to be like, hey, well, you are like one of the people in our community which spends the most, or you have the most of these kind of things. Like, I think that's where community pages or like some other kinds of thing that we build could integrate into this nicely. So
Yeah,
I
or
agree with you.
I was going to say something like a shake pay style mechanism, right? That in the app, the burner app, or the app that that you provide to users to manage their loyalty, there's a button that's like sign sign this block or whatever to accrue a small daily reward or whatever, which would get people more actively engaged with looking at and using the product on a regular basis. Something like
Absolutely.
like recurring.
So like imagine for instance if you're a local coffee shop and you can check in like Foursquare or something every day, right? Hey,
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy a coffee, but I'm going to go buy the coffee shop and just check in, right? And that's still like if you were using a phone and you can see the location, you can kind of like get points for that or something, right? And then all of a sudden you can use these points to get something interesting, right? Maybe it's a yeah. Anyways, all this to say, yes, there is a lot there, I think. Any other questions?
I mean,
Go ahead.
yeah, I just double down on what Tom was saying there. The loyalty programs and rewards they're an easy way to get people on chain, and they're a great way to track activations, to track return customers. You know, we this has definitely been validated already. So yeah, I mean, in terms of loyalty programs, it does sound like a great thing. Lindy.
Yep. All right. So here's another potential use case, local currency. So during the 2008 financial crises, there was a surge in the use of local currencies. And so there were things like, what were they called? One was called like Ithaca, something other. I can't remember, but there's a bunch of local currencies. And so there's lots of reasons to use local currencies, but basically they help stimulate the local economy. They provide liquidity when kind of like state level liquidity is not available. They provide kind of like local level liquidity. They help local businesses avoid closure and provide residents with a neighborhood loyalty program. So some local businesses were able to, during the 2008 financial crisis, keep some of their staff by paying them in a local currency, which could then be used at like local grocery stores or local other businesses locally, right? And so the staff weren't getting paid in US dollars, they were getting paid in a local currency that they could then use elsewhere in the neighborhood, but they couldn't use outside. And so, and then also you essentially get like a loyalty program as well. With Terminal, we could potentially offer a way for businesses to avoid a 3% credit card fee and potentially get yield from the entire system. It could be a 6% swing if you're getting a 3% interest rate by converting, let's say, US dollars to USDC, depositing that USDC, and then giving the depositor the the local currency. So this is a use case they've been asked about, but they haven't really thought too deeply about. If there's enough demand, they're going to do it. Technically, it's possible. What they're mainly thinking about for local currencies is, hey, I have an event like ETH Global. I want to have a local currency within so that you're not using US dollars. Or like, I'm at a spa and you can buy things at the spa. And you just tap your wristband to buy those things. These are the kinds of things that they were thinking, but they're like, yeah, it could also work at like a neighborhood or city level too. So that's another potential use case. Thoughts on that one?
It seems like potentially a lot of work to get each individual community on board with that. Seeing as how I don't know, with something like ETH Global, you have a built-in audience in that they're all crypto curious. But you mentioned, like, for example, being at a spa and you have a wristband, you tap it. I was at a spa in Iceland where they did something similar. They give you a wristband and you tap it, and at the end you just cash out your tap. But I don't know why you would need blockchain for that. It's just basically an internal points system, right? So so blockchain might just be overkill for a lot of these smaller use cases.
Yep, agreed. It is a daunting task as well. Like you're talking about not just getting like one community to buy in, but you're getting like an entire kind of like neighborhood of communities to buy in, right? Like a community of communities to
Yeah,
buy in, right? So it is
yeah,
daunting. It's
exactly.
definitely daunting,
Yeah,
daunting task.
let's just say, for example, a neighborhood in Toronto, and you want to get all the shops on board. Um, there are going to be some people who are all over it and some other people who are skeptical, but beyond that, you've also got to deal with the tax implications, right? Because sales tax
Mm-hmm.
is sales tax. I
Yep.
don't know what classifies as bartering, but the government's still going to want their cut of any sale.
Yep.
So that's another thing to consider with currencies. I did go through a bunch of these scenarios with Ibiza. There was a project I was working with called Ibiza Next and Ibiza Token, and they wanted to create their own local currency for the island of Ibiza. And they have a perfect use case, a perfect ecosystem for that down there to test things, because one, they're seasonal, so you can test it with 5 million people in 6 months, and then you can take a break and go back and figure out what worked and what didn't work. But two, all these, it's a very hermetic system in that a lot of the money that is earned there is also spent there because there's an island, right?
Yep.
So a lot of that tourism money gets spent on cars that are sold there. People earn their money in the club and then go off to the chiringuito and spend it down there. So it would be a good place to have that sort of local currency. One of the biggest issues that we dealt with was if we were dealing with not a point, but rather an actual on-chain token currency with liquidity, nothing stops the people the next day, the merchants, from dumping all their token. So what are the incentives to actually get people to keep their token? And we came up with some ideas on how to do that. Obviously, you got liquidity pools, you've got incentives for them, you get discounts, free advertising, lots of different ways that you can sort of cut that and slice it. But overall, for something that big, you're already looking at Bank of Spain getting involved, and that's going to be a non-starter pretty much from the get-go unless you're 100% fully compliant. So in terms of local currency, that's one I'm like less bullish on short term because there are so many roadblocks. But long term, I feel like that could definitely be a game changer.
Yeah. I tend
guess-
to go ahead, Tom.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say one more thing that I was thinking of along those lines in terms of like the utility, and I love the idea of like a local neighborhood or like a farmer's market or something like that, like going this way, and pitching a system of local currency to be used as like an inflation prevention mechanism, because what you could do is you could say price your goods or services in the token and guarantee that regardless of what happens, you're going to offer that product or service at that whatever posted token rate, regardless of the underlying currency, how it goes up or down. In a way, it's similar to, as you were saying, with the pre-buy loyalty program, that what people are doing is they're pre-buying the local currency in order to lock in that inflation-resistant pricing. So it could incentivize them to, pre-purchase that local currency in volume if it's a service or product they use heavily and they really want to sort of secure access to. And at the same time, the onus would be on the business to obviously set up their margins such that it wouldn't bankrupt them to be able to offer something like that in the circumstance of an inflationary pressure. So there'd be some hedging that you'd have to do, I guess, in that aspect in some businesses if you were in an inflation high environment. But having that as a marketing tool to say to somebody, you can buy this. Use this laundromat or something like that, right? For a 500 token guaranteed price, regardless of whatever the underlying USD or Canadian dollar changes over time.
Yeah, and I think that there's like I agree with all the things that NF Thinker says, and I do think that there's like ways that do it at a farmer's market, do it at a business improvement area, right? So you don't have to make all the individual sales, but I do think it's a bit beyond our ability right now. This specific use case, I do think it's interesting, but yeah, I tend to agree that it's kind of beyond our ability right now, because we're a volunteer organization. We don't have people working on this full time.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. But it's almost like I kind of lost my train of thought there, like a pipe dream towards the future or something like that. More along the lines of let me rethink about this. Hang on a sec.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that kind of like, hey, what could this be, right? Because it could spark some things, like some ideas that could work now. So like I
Yeah.
do think it's important to have those things. Yeah.
There are definitely some use cases that would be easier than others in terms of communities. Something like a Six Flags or a big park that gets a lot of footfall. Disneyland, for example. If Disneyland had their own currency, what could they do with it?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, do they use their own currency?
It depends where you are in the park, but yeah, you can use their currency for
Right.
like yeah.
Well, that would be the perfect test case, and I don't know anybody who works at Disney currently. I know somebody who used to work at Disney, but it would be worth, maybe if this was a product that we were going to try and push on a big community, do it with somebody huge like that and say, right, we're going to trial out this system for you and, see if it works. I feel like you just have to, unless you get the populist vote and you have tons of communities who love this product so much that they all want to use it, I think it's gonna fall on deaf ears unless you have a huge test case. Like Disney, Six Flags, the city of Austin, like, it could be anything like that. But like Austin might be a good test case as well because they've got so many different communities, Web3 communities down there. ATX DAO is probably one of the most prolific DAOs still. So maybe somewhere like that, a tech-friendly city.
Farmers markets as well. And going back to that one seems like a natural fit because in a lot of cases you barter, like if you pay with cash, they'll give you a better price than if you're using a tap card or something, right? So they can keep it either off the books to avoid tax on their end or in some ways just like make their process more efficient by avoiding paying fees. So yeah, it's something to think about there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Markets. And you have people who are probably more used to dealing in cash as well compared to
markets. That's what I was thinking before. I was like, thanks for reminding me that once your community becomes a marketplace or whatever, it sort of gives you an opportunity to investigate more about this particular solution, right? But we know not most communities are going to be markets. So
Yep. Yeah, and I think, and again, like I think it's like a bit beyond our ability, but I don't see why it's not something that could be possible in the future. I think like right now, like the place where we're at is we need to be able to help individual communities get it done, right? And so that's where we probably need to focus. And we're, I guess, like we have these little communities for Black Flag Collective. Is there something that we could potentially make for a local host that would actually be useful to use these kinds of things like burner cards or something else? I don't know, right? Like, could we come up with a bunch of like Black Flag cards that we send out to people to use? I don't know, right? Maybe if we're paying for drinks, you have to use these Black Flag tokens to get a drink. Or something like that, right? Like this is just me brainstorming off the top of my head. But all this to say that like focusing on the individual community right now, I think is the most important. And what Burner and Terminal are focusing on is really those small businesses, right? And so things like salons and food trucks and this kind of thing. You could buy a Square, you could buy a Clover, or you could buy a Terminal. And if you want to accept crypto, that's one of the ones to go for. So yeah, just kind of framing the discussion a little bit because I do think that some of these ideas, they're just ideas, but we if you think of something, I think we can workshop it and potentially make it useful here. It's just another tool that we can potentially use to bridge the gap between Web3 and the real world. Yeah.
It'd be good. Let's investigate.
Yeah, exactly. Just take a think about it.
Even if it's just an offering that we can present to communities, be like, hey, this exists. We can coordinate this on your behalf, right? And this could offer these benefits to your users. Even just building out, as you say, these potential use cases to be more case studies could spark some really interesting ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I got to roll, guys. Thanks for the meet. I'm gonna bounce a bit early. I got to run off to help a friend move. So,
All right. Thanks,
I'll
Tom.
talk soon, everybody. Bye for now.
See ya.
All right. Thanks everyone for being here. Really appreciate you all. And yeah, we're here to explore, right? So as we're using these new tools and stuff, we're looking at these new tools. It's something that we have to use. It's something that we can use if it helps us with our mission. So thanks everyone for being here. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks so much. Yeah. See you at the next one.
Thanks. Bye.
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 Bye.